Okay, let's start. Good afternoon, everybody. I'll just read through some of the statistics which we had collected and a bit of information on where India is heading towards with respect to infra, etc. But before that, a warm good afternoon to all of you. Welcome you to the webinar, Procurement for EPC Projects, specially tailored for project managers and procurement managers working in the EPC space. Right. And we also have a lot of project managers who have joined from the manufacturing ecosystem. We expect the problems to be fairly similar and they would also gain good insights from the conversation, right? Before I introduce both the panelists, let me set the context for today's discussion, right? India leads global infrastructure and manufacturing growth across the globe today. And this is powered by top tier EPC companies, right? Known for predominantly for their engineering excellence and the project management expertise, right? And key sectors driving these EPC projects, like we can take few examples, right? One of them is the power industry, which is expected to grow at 9% CAGR from 2024 to 2029 in the next 5-6 years, right? And this is a massive increase, right? At the current base, you're growing at more than 9%. And then the other space examples are like renewable energy, where India plans to invest about 500 billion over the next 5-6 years. By 2030, India aims to invest around 500 billion. And the other space is oil and gas market size. And it is estimated to reach 38.1 billion cubic meters in 2024 itself, and to reach over 50 billion cubic meters in the 5-year period, right? And these are all significantly large investments which are going to happen in the next 5-6 years, right? And what we see as a player in the ecosystem, etc., is significant number of these projects face challenges in these three counts. One of them is 14% of these projects definitely get into cost overruns, right? That's been the statistic. And over 70% of them experience time overruns, right? And more than 10% of the project material ends up as waste, right? These are some statistics in terms of inefficiencies which the industry lives with, or even the industry's customers live with, right? And these figures highlight the critical nature of how the elements involved in this have to address the time, cost, and quality of these projects, right? Now, to share their perspectives on these problems as well as more learnings, we have two very distinguished panelists today. We have Mainak Chakroborty, who is the CEO and co-founder of GPS Renewables. And we have Prakash Panicker, who is head of green energy supply chain at L&T, right? Let's welcome them. I'll give them a minute to introduce themselves briefly, and then we'll directly dive in into the webinar. Okay. First, I think I'll request others to turn off their cameras, or let the panelists be on camera, and others can please turn them off, right? Yeah. Thank you. Mainak, maybe you could go first for a minute. Yeah.
Sure. Thanks, Rajesh, for this, for inviting GPS. So to give a quick background and introduction, I'm the co-founder and CEO of GPS Renewables. We are India's leading technology and EPC company in the compressed biogas space, and one of the leading companies in the larger biofuel ecosystem, which is strongly growing in India. This is a company that I had co-founded right after business school. I'm an engineer and MBA as per my education qualifications. I opted out of the placements from IIM Bangalore to co-found GPS along with Sri Krishna Shankar. We officially formed the company in 2012. First few years went into getting the technology right and all. We started off with small scale food waste to biogas plants. Today, as the country also has become very serious about its climate initiatives, climate goals, and with specific focus on bioenergy. We managed to be there at the right place at the right time. That is what entrepreneurs try to do. Maybe to a fair degree of extent, we have been fairly successful in doing that. So we have been able to make not make the most, but maybe do a number of things right. So as I mentioned, today we have positioned ourselves as one of the leading companies in this particular sector. Apart from this, we have a developer arm. We have a joint venture with India's largest oil marketing company, which should be announced anytime soon. We have other joint ventures coming up with other OMCs and all. So long story short, started totally from scratch. We come from middle class backgrounds and all. In a way, what we're doing is related to the oil and gas sector. Our counterparts, our peers, are companies who are in some cases centuries old, in many cases mostly decades old and all. So that way we are the new kid in the block. And so CBG, compressed biogas or bio-CNG, is the bread and butter today. Having said that, we have made inroads into sustainable aviation fuel and things like that. We are currently at an annual revenue run rate of around 1,000 crores. We have always been profitable and we have large ambitions. Final point is that our aspiration is to be the world's leading technology player in the biofuel space. Long way to go, but that is what gives us sleepless nights, and that is what we work towards. Thank you.
Amazing, amazing. Great to have you for this session, Mainak. Mr. Prakash, could you please share a bit about yourself?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Good evening. My name is Prakash Panicker. I am handling this EPC business. I'm the head of EPC SCM in L&T Green Tech Limited. This is the new company that we have registered as for the green energy project. So we are within the energy vertical, but we are a separate company now and only handling the green energy, green hydrogen development and manufacturing also of. We can help you all in if you want hydrogen, we can supply that. Two is we can help you set up a EPC plant for yourself. And third, we can help you with the manufacturing, the technology of electrolyzers. Though it is a patent technology, we can supply you the electrolyzers to you, which is hitherto a very kind of in-demand product, and only you have option of today. You have the option of Chinese, but we are one of the first companies in India to start making the electrolyzers, which actually does the electrolysis of water and converts water into the H2O into H2 and O2. So from there we generate the H2, and this hydrogen is and when we use the green energy part of it, that is, we use renewable power, either solar or wind, for generation of this gas. Then we call this gas a green hydrogen. This is the definition of it. And for talking about me, I'm a mechanical engineer. I have been in marketing all the way, but last 5-7 years I'm in supply chain, and I was handling the capital supply chain of L&T for all the projects that you see, including high-speed rail, or the metros or things like that. So I've done that for 5 years. And then I'm now, last 2 years, I'm in green hydrogen. This is a new technology for all of us, you and me both. So we have more of discovery and bring those technologies to India rather than find a new vendor off the shelf, because they are not available there, because they also don't know what to supply, and so we have to groom them, guide them, and then bring them to ourselves. So that is in short about me, and thank you, Rajesh, and thank you, Sandesh, for inviting me for this seminar. I look forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Quick question before we get into the serious thing. Which one is exciting, your marketing role or the supply chain role now?
I think it's complementary, because if I was not doing a good marketing job, I wouldn't have done a good SCM job as well, because negotiations are both ways, maybe I changed the side of the table, but that has given me a lot of inputs to how to handle it. And that has been my success story as well.
Nice. This is a great transition. Actually, I'm listening this for the first time. Somebody moving from marketing to a hardcore supply chain role in a heavy technology space.
That's right. Yeah.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's get into the questions or the first section. The first section is about defining project success. That's the section, right? I have my first question for Mainak, right? The question goes, with the complexities of EPC projects, right? How does your organization, like at GPS, how do you handle the procurement challenges? And generally, when I say procurement challenges, it's about long lead times, finding the right vendor partners across geographies, right? You do projects across India, and eventually the financial risks, etc. So, what are your views on that?
Yeah, sure. So, first and foremost, and this is from a startup's perspective, right, Rajesh? The answer to this question would be very different from, someone like, Prakash coming from the other end of the spectrum, say the L&Ts of the world and all, right? In our world, the challenge is that, and people who are from startups out here who would be able to relate to that. I mean, first and foremost, goes without saying, everybody would like to work with the best vendors, right? I mean, that's a fundamental. Having said that, the challenge with younger companies is that uh, it's difficult to get larger vendors on board. That is the reality of life, right? Um, and even though you're the client, the reality is that sometimes you have to convince them why you are a good client, right? You can pay on time, right? These are, I mean, smaller practical things which maybe textbooks do not talk about it, right? I mean, but that is something I think one has to be very cognizant of, that, even though you're the client, you have to convince, sometimes the right partners to take you seriously, because naturally from their perspective, people may have questions like whether we will end up paying on time or not. I mean, how is our liquidity, stuff like that, right? I mean, our financial health and all. So that is one thing. Point is getting, talking of the challenges, getting the right partners on board can be a challenge, right, for younger companies. And there are various ways to navigate that. I think to a fair degree, we have been able to do that, but that is one of the things. At the same time, if let's say one is not able to do that, then you end up working with, obviously smaller vendors. Not that, and nothing wrong in that. We like there are challenges in every sector, but that poses other types of issues. For instance, and again, I'm talking of right from commodities to popular equipments and all. When we talk about that, the challenge with, say, not the top vendors is that how do you validate whether a vendor is right or not, right? And again, being very blunt and open about it, people often fudge data, fudge references. That things like that do happen, right? I'm sharing it very openly for, so that the conversation is much more meaningful. So point is that how do you solve for that? That one has to be very vigilant and all of that. In fact, on that matter, kudos to you and your team for coming up with a platform like Venwiz. It solves many such problems. And again, just to be very clear, Rajesh has not paid me to say this, but I'm just I'm just saying this because that is something what I genuinely feel. Now, on this matter, how do you do that? I mean, there are one can try to validate all references on their own. There are quantitative ways to go about it. Maybe looking at past financials, matching that with whether a particular company received the money from their clients or not. But doing that could be a very exhaustive exercise. So that is where technology has a role to play. That's what we firmly believe in. We have tried to incorporate technology in various aspects. We have digitized many things and all. But at the same time, doesn't make sense to reinvent the wheel. That is where I think platforms like Venwiz can make a massive difference. But long story short, coming to the point, for younger companies, if we are not left with a choice and we have to work with newer vendors out of choice, or compulsion or design, whatever be the case, validating right partners is a challenge. So that's another challenge. Now, so that's at a macro level. Not talking specifically of other risks such as cost overruns, time overruns. As we all know, these are the usual things like that anybody in the EPC industry faces. Our approach to that has been to keep things simple, right? And when I say keep things simple, approach has been always to maybe while we might not today might not have massive bargaining power over the entire supply chain, while it has improved over the years, the thing that we had in our control was to execute faster. And I'm saying, I mean, keeping things simple. That is something that we had in our hands. Execute faster, that was one. Second, like Indianize as much as possible, reduce dependence on imports. Now, that might not be possible in every sector, but we, over the years, I mean, we have today managed to bring down our percentage of imports to less than 10%. It's in single digits. That has made a lot of a difference and all. It meant finding and in fact co-working with our partners in India to enable them, empower them to do more. In certain cases, if we have to import, I mean, at least reduce the dependence on spares and things like that. It essentially reduce the import risk. That was one thing and it has helped us a lot in avoiding time and cost overruns. We have had very few cases over the last 10 plus years where we had time or cost overruns, and the reason we were able to do that was because of the nature of the industry where we are, where faster executions are possible. The other thing was that this particular thing. Now going back to the the other point that in terms of as far as faster execution is concerned, again, we as a agile startup, we were able to maybe do things a bit differently. So for instance, some cases maybe at some point we realized that we were I mean, again, for executing faster goes without saying, ideas to place and close the procurement of long lead time items as soon as possible, right? Where there is a 80-20 rules applies everywhere. At some point, where we realized that even though we were able to, decide in a way on the longer lead time partners, but the whole process of closing the PO itself often takes so much time. So at some point, we tried doing some very simple things and all. I mean, even while the evaluation is going on, share draft purchase orders, with our partners, saying that I mean, we would openly say that this does not mean that, we are finalizing the contract. So one need not be too excited. We are doing that just to cut short the time around negotiations, not around payment terms, stuff like that. And we took that approach of, doing those negotiations in parallel, because we realized that often those things would take time. Now, a very large company might have the bargaining power to, say that it's my way or highway, but for smaller companies, these things also take time. So these are some, unconventional things that we did as far as procurement is concerned. Like we essentially, what I'm trying to say is that we decided that we have to be flexible, considering where we are, who we are, and the usual procurement approaches might not work. The textbook approaches might not work for a smaller company like us. And some of these smaller intervention helped us in, executing faster. That in turn meant that our, exposure to, other macro volatilities and all, was significantly reduced. So, I mean, while this is, we can go on for hours and hours, but, this is at a very, high level. These are some of the things that we did, which helped us in navigating some of these challenges.
Sure. We'll come back to some of the points you made during the Q&A again, right?
Sure.
And many thanks. Actually, quite a few detailed points on how, and you've given a startup perspective that's actually more unique for people who have joined on the call also. That's quite good. Okay. Now I'll go on to Prakash, right? Prakash, considering your extensive experience at L&T, right? How crucial is technology in overcoming these challenges, right? Because you are transitioning from a very manual paperwork, traditional legacy setup, maybe 30 years ago. Now there is a lot more tech in quite a few places, moving to a very agile and tech-driven process, etc., right? Which will give the competitive edge to EPC companies, right? So how are you seeing this play out?
Yeah, Rajesh. While we speak today, it is one of my important KRAs to improve our digitalization, and our innovation within our process. So, as you said, we have the most popular ERP that is being used worldwide is that what we are using as well. It is there for last 20 years. But then that just does the process. But when you look for a little expertise inside that, and to handle the complication of this procurement business, first you have to basically EPC SCM also, supply chain also has become a total digital medium, and a lot of data is flowing inside. So how you handle the data is basically you have to be totally technology oriented. And for that, from vendor management itself, we start our digitization, and we have a software. We use that only for, like Mr. Mainak was saying, that he has problem with getting vendors maybe small at the smaller spectrum. We have problem with vendors at the larger spectrum, because they also say, I'm very big, so I don't want to handle you. Or you are very big and I don't want to get engaged with you. These problems keep coming, But then we evaluate them, and properly we have a system for doing that. And then and it's a center of excellence, we call it, because a lot of things we check. We not only check their data of the volume of business that do, and the quality of product that they make, their supply chain system previously. We also check their, if they have defaulted somewhere, and if there has been any legal cases with them, that also we check. That's our excellence model. And if the tick mark is there everywhere, then only we start engaging with them, because otherwise we say, look, we don't want to engage with you, because we are currently a $23 billion company, and we are worldwide. We are having vendors, giant and small, all, and we have a level playing platform made for everybody. But then we want that what we order, and because our projects are all very, very important projects, whether it is India projects or abroad projects in the Middle East, or time bound with a lot of LDs and defaults and all those things. So we need, whenever we order, we need to get the best product in time, and it should perform very well. So no compromise there in any place. So all these things is monitored by technology that we are having. One is the ERP, second is this vendor management, and then post vendor management also, even for negotiation, we use some of the ERP software, like negotiation, reverse auctions, and the Dutch auctions, to reduce the time of negotiations, and close the deal as fast as possible. And what we have done is, once we close a deal with a vendor and we think that this is going to be a regular product, so we have something called a store within our company. We put that in the store, digital store, and whoever wants to buy that product can buy. So let me take example of umbrella. If you close a deal for umbrella, I'm just taking an example. We close the deal with one umbrella vendor or two umbrella vendors and put them in the store. Anybody in the company, in India or abroad, within the company, can access that store and buy at the same rate that we have. And we will fix that. We will put them in the store only if they are the best price. And suppose somebody wants to buy, and suppose I've put in the store for 100 rupees, and somebody was trying to buy, and he gets a price of 120, then the store will not allow to punch the order, because it will say you are at a higher price than what we have been fixed. So these are all digital, So these are various technologies that we use, and it has helped us, because 60-70% of our business, if you see, for turnover, is procurement, So these are some of the things that we do, and going for, even if you other things that you have asked, we have automation bottlenecks. what we have done is digitization. We have found out that it is a bottleneck, and generally we need to rely with smaller, because there are many softwares coming from smaller vendors, but then we are not able to not deal with them. So our internal company, LTTS, LTI Mindtree, they all come into play, and we engage with them to generate get a good software for us, which will do a basically the excellence job for us.
Sure.
This is in short what I can say about what we do, but everywhere there's a lot of technology, and even when I speak, we are working on some technologies, to be brought inside, and so that even the vendors' experience to large extent, no, let me add that part. Vendors' experience with us is also totally digital. He need not send me a paper document invoice and collect the money. It is totally automated. We give him a portal access. He puts in all the documents inside the portal, and when it reaches our processing center, automatically he will get acknowledgement, and his payment will be processed. There was some few years back, somebody used to say, some company XYZ is having a little payment problem and all. That all thing we have resolved through this process. Unless there is a technical problem that his supplies has not been okay, or there has been some short supply or something like that, his payment will go in time. And we encourage and develop a lot of MSMEs. So, they are bound by government laws, and we are very happy to work with them. And they also, in fact, many of the vendors, they want to work with us because we give the volume business for them. So they are always keen to work with us, and we appreciate that. Yeah.
Sure. Curious to know, sir, is there any name for the digital store, or it's just called digital store?
No, it's called Quanzone, construction zone, Quanzone.
Oh, there is a name to that. Okay.
Yeah. So it's not a public offering. It's our own product made by us for us to be used by us.
Great. Okay. We'll take a small 1-minute poll. I would request Harman, can we run a poll where we just want to hear from the audience? We have good 100+ participants. Maybe all of us can also vote.
Yep, poll is live.
Clearly, we can't vote.
I would like to guess what will be the right answer.
Yes.
Because you have not allowed me to vote. So I would like to guess that.
What's your guess, sir?
My guess will be, with my experience and my ecology of SCM, the last one, effective risk management, will be the.
Okay.
The on-time project completion, well, yeah. That is the most important. But in fact, today, in this a very complicated world of, what on deliveries are very problem, and you have a Suez Canal problem. So you have to cover your risk areas very, very clearly. Otherwise, you will default on the timing, and you will default on the availability and completion of the project.
Yep. So I think around 35% was on the on-time completion of project, right? So that's the highest one which you've got. And considering most of the audience is project managers or procurement managers, right? So they're seeing on-time completion as the first one. And I think Harman, can you flash the results, or you can't? The third one was meeting quality standards.
Yes, just a second.
I will take offtake from this result is that, I am 50+. So all these project managers who have applied, given a result of on-time project will be in their 40s.
So they're living the problem. Sure. Okay, thanks, Herman. Okay, now we'll get to the second section. The second section of the webinar is on integrating ESG factors into the regular work which we do, right? So I'll go back to Mainak again, right? So what we feel is in the realm of the EPC business, there is significant increase in the focus on ESG factors, right? And people are looking for whether you are aligned with ESG processes, etc. Right? Now, how is your organization integrating with any of these, or are you seeing this happening, or it's not so high? Like, what's your take on it?
Sure. By the way, before that, Rajesh, on that poll, my guess would have been, the customer satisfaction part.
Okay.
The reason, I say so is that maybe since we get the opportunity to deal on a principal to principal basis, my experience has been that even if there are challenges, if the client is satisfied, maybe unless it's a sovereign, it's a government project and all. I mean, other things can be taken care of. Like people can, let's say, delays or cost overruns. Many of these things can be, one can sort that out with the client, provided the fundamental thing if the client is satisfied. I mean, that's my personal view. I'm saying from a EPC company's perspective, nobody wants to lose money, right? So from that perspective, I think if that fundamental thing is taken care of, maybe other things can be sorted, because any practical and reasonable partner on the other end would acknowledge some of these macro factors, like what Mr. Prakash mentioned about the Suez crisis, etc. But that's my view. Just yeah. So now, coming to your question, see, in our case is a bit different from others in the sense that our whole genesis, I mean, it's been all around ESG. We are an environment focused company. That's what we started off with. So it's not that we had to make a shift. The whole our purpose is around environment, right? So the fundamental business is around that. So in a way, we did not have to. For us, when we saw this lot of talk around ESG and all, it was good to hear. But that is something, it was anyway in our DNA, right? We were doing many of these things nonetheless. And obviously, I mean, there is the environment part, there's the social and the governance part of it. Those things also, as a responsible company, we had been doing. Again, for a startup, I mean, I think from the very beginning, we had taken governance very seriously and all. Not for anything else, not because because of the recent focus on ESG and all. We did that because we felt it made business sense. And I think in hindsight, that made sense for us also. I mean, first talking about purely from not from a procurement perspective, but first from the company's macro perspective. Point is, it helps in raising money from the right funds, like be it equity or debt, right? So it makes business sense. It might not help in getting higher valuations and all, but it's a very important hygiene factor. If like from a funds perspective, one has to choose between two companies, this could become a very important differentiating factor. In fact, a lot of climate funds and all, for many of them, or a lot of strategic investors and all, today we are increasingly seeing that people might choose a well-governed company, in a way, forget the ESG scoring methodology, but whatever be the methodology, but someone with an ESG focused company, one would naturally choose prefer investing in such a company, and applies. We are increasingly seeing that with debt funds as well, simply because that makes sense, right? I mean, and of late we have seen so many negative news around governance and all. So it's not about that score. That's what I'm trying to say. I think it's a fundamental aspect of a business, and for younger companies, I think it's one should not. My humble and limited suggestion would be that forget the scoring and all. I mean, in general, if you go back to the basics, it's important to focus on ESG because it makes sense on all fronts, to get the right partners. That's one thing. Now, as far as procurement from that perspective is concerned, there are challenges, to be frank. Again, ideally, in an ideal scenario, maybe if every company, public as well as private, if everyone had a standardized ESG score and all, would have been great, right? But that does not exist today. Again, these are things which at some point platforms like Venwiz and all should be doing. I assume these are you also might have long-term plans around that. I mean, if we had that option, it would have been a no-brainer. But the reality is that, again, as far as while public companies talking about it, if you have to evaluate certain vendors on those fronts, that data is missing. So what we end up doing, we have to be practical also. So what we end up doing is that doing some bit of diligence at our end, what Mr. Prakash also spoke about, do the usual checks and balances around legal, etc. But beyond a certain point, as a company whose primary focus is on timely execution, cost overruns, and there are so many battles, to be very frank, some of these things, become challenging on a standalone basis. So my answer to that is that, yeah, like again, just to conclude or to summarize, as far as GPS Renewables is concerned, our purpose is around environment. So it comes naturally. Over the years, we have seen that it makes business sense also to be very ESG focused. We do that. The procurement part is an evolving thing, simply because the whole ecosystem is still evolving. A lot of this data still does not exist, and I can only hope that sooner or later, we have platforms, we have better scoring indices out there which we can take comfort in, but that is a challenge as on date.
So is there there are, say, ESG principles or ESG guidelines? Are they getting integrated into your day-to-day operations, or it's still some time there?
So yeah, in our case, yes, it is, as I said. I mean, it's very much yes. At the same time, in certain cases, even we wish to, there are certain constraints in executing that to the fullest. I gave that example of the procurement part. Given a choice, yes, we would like to also have when we evaluate say vendor partners and all, ideally we would like to have a ESG score attached, as an example, right? But that does not exist for today it's often voluntary and all, and that we don't have that data for all the companies out there. There are a lot of new companies, growing companies, so that becomes a challenge. So what we try to do is that on the overall ESG spectrum, whatever in our hands goes with that thing. We try to do that, like be it having the right from audits to on the legal side. I mean, the usual indices we work on wherever it's possible as a company. But having said that, there are certain areas where there are some constraints and all. So yes, we are very much focused on that. Again, as a startup, as a private company, not yet public, we publish our ESG reports. In fact, just today, today being the 5th of June, we published our second ESG report. I don't think too many many startups do that. I think for a startup, I mean, we try to come out with a fairly detailed ESG report and all. As per one of our shareholders, we are dark green as per the EU taxonomy and all. So we are pretty serious. We take ESG very seriously and all, and it has helped us in many aspects, as I mentioned. Having said that, are we there yet where we would like to? The answer is no, because there are some systemic challenges which maybe which come in the way. And again, going into a very sensitive topic, without digressing too much, like a very fundamental part of is gender, right? Now, and we are talking about EPC. In our central roles, we have healthy gender ratios and all. At the same time, like when we talk about the bioenergy industry, all these plants are coming up in rural or peri-urban areas and all, right? Often in the middle of nowhere. Practically in our country, is it possible to have like have gender parity there. I mean, when work is happening, across three shifts, it is a real challenge, right? So there are some systemic challenges also out there. That's what I'm trying to say. So what we try to do is that, I mean, we have tried to come out with our own, so to say, view. We proactively try to, address those points on the keeping in mind that we try to address what a ESG focused company should do wherever it is possible, wherever things it is in our hands. Having said that, we try to proactively highlight those areas where maybe there are some certain real practical challenges. So that is what I'm trying to say. So yeah, long story short, again, we are very much focused. At the same time, I think the sector is evolving. There are certain challenges. Maybe some of the methodology, some of the scores are not all at the same time, I feel, are not reflective of the ground challenges in a country like India, in the global south. So think these issues do exist as well.
Sure. Okay. Let me move on to Mr. Prakash.
Can I
have
say
a
something
question?
on the ESG part?
Sure.
ESG, Ms. Mainak, I totally agree with you that it is very early days for ESG. But I think last 2 years, Registrar of Companies has also issued a notice that all members on the board should be ESG. They should be aware of ESG and ESG compliant. They should be knowing what there is a course to be done for if you want to be a board member. If you are not past that course, you cannot be a board member. So ESG is already in India, but then how it is being rated, how it is calculated, as you said, there's some early days. But every big companies, like maybe I can take our example, is working on it. We have a typical one division which works on ESG. And as I said, I was talking to somebody on the digital part today. It was basically with one of the large 4 consultants who came here, and we were talking on how to implement ESG into our division, green energy. So this is in and this is happening, but only because as if you remember the old ISO days, if you don't have ISO 9000 rating, you cannot export to maybe Europe or America. Same thing will happen to green energy also. If you are renewables or my energy, whatever is being exported outside, if we are not compliant ESG wise, vendor wise as well, ourselves also, if we are not tracking that and we are not putting the figures, there will be problem in exporting. And we have, if you see our annual report also, we will have a section on EPC, but yeah, we are not putting any ratings there. But we are saying what all things we are doing in the ESG section as well. So it is very important, and maybe startups, you may have little more, the companies the government may give you a little more leeway, but it is something going to hit you very soon. Maybe another 2 years, you will be bang on your face. So be prepared.
Okay. So in this context, we were discussing at the beginning of the session, are there examples of where L&T is helping their clients become ESG compliant? Is that something you were going to?
Yes. When we were talking to the vendors, because we know that many of our clients who are MSMEs, they may not be ESG compliant. So there, we have to handhold them and carry them together along with us and bring them to, okay, you cannot measure this, we'll help you measure this. Maybe we will have to invest something along with them for some time to, create that technology for them to measure things in their system. Okay. So we are okay with that because our vendors are big size vendors and even in big volume vendors. So they're important for me. If I'm buying something regularly from party, the scale can be very large. It can be in few crores. So it matters to me that he is compliant, and because of his compliance, I get a good grade as well. So we have a team now which is working on that, and there's a corporate team as well as the functional SCM team which is working on ESG, and we take it very seriously.
Good takeaways for me from this session. One is L&T helping even vendors become ESG compliant, and in case of Mainak, it's about actually publishing that ESG report at such a early stage, right? How long has it been, Mainak, or this is the first year?
This is the second year.
Brilliant. Actually, I'm like, I don't know, we don't do exactly the same thing, but quite inspirational for similar scale EPC companies, right? EPC or process engineering companies to look at this as a benchmark, right? Great, great. Thanks for this information. Let us get into the next section where there is a small poll. I will again ask Harman, could you please do the poll? In this one, I have a clear answer from myself.
Yeah, guys, last 10 seconds.
This time, any guesses, Mr. Prakash, Mainak?
I would say from E to B, all four.
Okay.
A maybe, it is a universal problem for everybody.
Yeah, in my case, I would go with E.
Okay, guys, I'm sharing the results.
Mainak, you
I
are
find all of them as challenges. I think like
That's the fact. Actually, fact is all of them are today's challenges. So lack of supply compliance, insufficient technology, regulatory hurdles. Regulatory hurdles is actually number one, to be very frank, because they are also not clear what they want from us. They want us to write everything, but then it's all when Mainak spoke about gender, that is also part of it. The inclusivity is a big problem. You need to have certain percentage of people in board who should be of the other, both varieties. Varieties, I would say, male and female. So that's the challenge. If you don't do that, then your rating goes down. Even share market may punish you for that. So ESG is going to hit your share market as well. If you are not compliant, then the market will hit you because you are not very compliant on ESG. And there the governance part is very, very delicate.
okay. But today, considering the position we are in, where we are on the sidelines observing this, seeing in the poll, even I shared my view, right? I will be on the last one, right? And looks like quite a few of the people are still on the limited awareness stage. So we have to find ways to simplify this and make people understand what all does ESG entail and so on.
That's why I said I want to speak on this, because very less people recently,
Your video is stuck, Prakash.
I was in a CII panel about equipment. Even people, is it? I'm saying that that's why I said I want to speak about the ESGs, because ESGs. I was in a CII meeting recently, and then I spoke about this. Half of the people are not aware of this. That ESG is becoming so important, and it will hit you on the face in the next 2 years, because they will start disbanding your boards and say that you cannot appoint a director unless you are compliant, or the director is qualified for this. So that kind of harshness will come in, because this is very, very critical. International business, if you want to do, then you need to have a compliance. Very, very clear.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much. So there is one more thing which we want to share. Like over the last couple of weeks, we have done a procurement diaries challenge where a lot of procurement managers and project managers participated in sharing what they have done in a superior manner to improve the procurement process, right? And we have had quite a few submissions, right? And we have chosen two of them as winners. One of them is on the client side and the other is on the supply side, the vendor side, right? And the winners are, I'm hoping they are part of the audience now. So one of them is Sayali Kakpure. She's from RESL, the Resustainability business, which is from the erstwhile Ramki Group. And the other is Mr. Pratik Shah, is from ArcAegis. These two were the winners for the innovation they've done in their procurement process. And sincere thanks to all the other participants who have submitted their challenge reports, right? And my team would reach out to you on felicitating you separately also, but this is a good forum to announce the winners. Right now,
Congratulations
we
from
are
my side.
open for, congrats to both of them. It's Sayali and Pratik. These are the two winners.
Pratik, all right.
Yeah. And yep, we are open for Q&A. Mehul, you have the questions ready?
Yes, we have 3 questions. The first one is from Mr. Ankush Goyal. Can the panelists see on their screen?
You can click on Q&A and you will be able to see that.
Not yet.
You can't? I'll read it out for you, sir. So how to reach a new company as small vendor, as there is a lot of problems in reaching to them because of money factors, etc. If we want to get a vendor code in a large company, I have worked with many companies. This question is from Mr. Ankush Goyal, who is a vendor, a supplier to EPC companies.
He's a vendor himself.
Yes.
So he's asking how to reach to a bigger client.
Yeah, how to get a vendor code in these companies, get registered.
Oh, that's little difficult, whoever asked it, because we have our due diligence process, and unless your product suits my quality that I need, and you as a company have shown some presence in the market with dealing with similar vendors like us, we will not give you access inside. You need to be qualified by this thing. Yeah, but then if you have a unique product, then you can come and talk to us. Meeting us and talking to us is not a big problem. So maybe we may say no, but then that's it. But you can always meet us, mail to us, talk to us.
Is Mr. Ankush Goyal on mute? Does it answer your question, Mr. Goyal? Herman, I hope the participants can speak.
Mr. Ankush,
Yes,
now you can speak.
Yeah. So I was not able to unmute the call. So I got the answer. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. This next question is from Mr. Nataraj Sundaram. Sir, you're here? Herman, so the question is, sir, if you're here, you can probably speak.
Yeah, Mr. Nataraj, you can unmute yourself.
Or otherwise, Prakash and Mainak, you can click on Q&A. I'm also able to see the question.
Yeah, I can see that. Yes.
Yeah.
Natraj. Stores in L&W, how do you manage transportation charges if the rates being compared? What's L&W?
Possibly L&T.
Oh,
It's
actually, we have very less storage system because whatever we buy, we consume it immediately. That's our project, But yeah, some areas we keep it for some 2-3 months. So we have large storages. And transportation, we have a 4PL process in our company, and we deal with them and we negotiate and come to agreement. Then there are a lot of websites now, truckbada.com and all can help you get the transport data. Transport is not a big challenge, but the reliability of the vendor is the challenge, because he takes your material and goes away, the money is lost, So that is a problem. Otherwise, there are a lot of times if you have a good agreement with a good vendor, and your product will reach your warehouses properly.
Sure, sure. Next one, I think, is for Mainak.
Yes, Mainak.
Yeah. So the response to that is that, see, the scale which that Mr. Akash has referred to, it's too small. Economies of scale
Mainak, to
won't
interrupt
work
you,
out.
the participants can't see
Yeah.
the question. If you can just read it out, the question. I'll read it out.
Okay,
The
yeah.
question to Mainak was, Mainak's advice to young entrepreneurs to opt for CBG based on MSW for about 2 TPD project.
So the answer to that is that, first of all, 2 TPD is too small for, for economies of scale to kick in. I understand where this figure comes from, which is like for a young entrepreneur who's just stepping into this particular sector, that might be it might be could be due to capital constraints and things like that. But the thing is that this scale is not the right scale for economic viability. I mean, typically the capex for where the numbers start making sense are north of 50 crores per project. Ideally, say 100 or so. So my suggestion there is that, and there is a reason why we are seeing larger players. That is the unfortunate reality. So yeah, small scale projects frankly will not do not make sense. If someone is very serious about CVG specifically, I mean, there are many other ways to get into this sector. Maybe start from the technology side, or maybe start by supplying specific component equipments and all. As far as project development is concerned, then the other option is to then increase the equity contribution. If that is a challenge, if someone has a capital challenge there, then one needs to rethink, because this scale might not work. That is the reality.
Sure. Okay, Mehul, next.
Yeah, Mr. Pushkar, are you there? So
I think you asked the question. We have very little.
Yeah, Mr. Pushkar, you are allowed to speak now.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
For the sir, what he has mentioned for the digital stores at L&T, while we book for the rates at what we have bought from the vendor, and in future, if someone tries to buy on a higher rate that has been blocked by the system, how we cater for the fluctuation in rates? That is evidently, it is proven it will happen in future.
I think what they have given a provision of depending on suppose we talk of India, so and in the solution. So if your rates are different, I think 5% variation is allowed depending on the location where you are. So that's how it is designed, the digital store.
Are we mentioning for the annual escalation of 5%, which generally happens in construction commodities?
I'm talking of a locational escalation based on need, and it can be quarterly or something like that. So I think quarterly or 6 months we also change the rates also, but normally we try to keep a 1-year rate inside that. But it can be an annual contract with the vendors, so that it is made for annual purpose, because we don't want to renegotiate every time, every time we have a need. So like many examples I can give you, the dresses of the workers, the shoes, the caps, which are regular in nature, it takes the same process within our system. So we have made it into a package.
A centralized process.
Right. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
yes, thank you. So we've had great participation. In fact, there were many more questions. So Mr. Mainak, Prakash, I'll be emailing them to you after the webinar. I'll just request Herman to quickly share his screen. We are at the end of the webinar, and I'll have Rajesh just take us through the vote of thanks, and also wanted to spotlight the winners of the Procurement Diaries Challenge. And thank you very much for your participation to all the participants.
Yeah. Thank you so much,
Thank
Mainak
you.
and Prakash. This is generally very helpful because
Thank you
audience
so much.
comes from very diverse
Thank you.
experiences, and them being able to hear from some of the leaders in the space is always exciting for them. And even for my team, I think quite a few of Venwiz and GPS teams have joined. So that way, it's definitely going to be good learning for all of them. And the participants in the competition, because they have put in that effort to summarize what they've done to improve things, has been good, right? And I think even the question and answer, good participation there. So good seriousness
Yes.
in attending to the session and doing that.
I'll just take this question, before closing. Mr. Deepak Khurana has asked in the procurement cycle, how the negotiations are possible as software. Deepak, there are a lot of softwares available. You just look into the market, there are a lot of softwares available for negotiations.
Right. I think, Prakash, the question was more at a fundamental level. How are you expecting technology to do that when human interaction is necessary? So that's
some leveling has to be done by human interaction, because you need to qualify the vendors and bring them to same level, otherwise your negotiation will go wrong, because you are buying same item from everybody. It's like, somebody is A class, somebody is C class, but you have to bring to everybody to parity. You have to have same payment terms, you have to have same delivery terms, then this negotiation works. And you are fair also.
right. If we have 2 more minutes, then Sandesh also sent in a question. I think it's a good one for both Mainak and Prakash.
Yeah. And on that one, a very quick comment, Rajesh, I think what we end up doing, we while our projects are smaller, but we have a pretty large volume. So what we end up doing is that differentiating between commodities and, very niche products. So in such cases, newer types of, say, gas upgradation systems, etc., where there are so many technology pathways, we cannot avoid that human interaction and all. But at the same time, softwares can definitely help when we're talking of bulk procurements, commodities where, where we can do proper head-to-head comparison. So I think that flexibility will always be needed. One has to be, software is just an enabler. It is not the end solution too. So that would be my, yeah.
Sure. And the last question was on all the new technologies, be it hydrogen or solar and renewable investments which companies are doing. Is it only government incentives which is making them survive, or there's a genuine economics of the demand and supply?
So on the biofuel side, see, the government has a role to play, no doubt about that. Having said that, it is driven by economics. At least we are, again, as I mentioned, our genesis is around environment, but we are for-profit company. In fact, we have always been profitable and all. We don't get into things if it does not make business sense. And as far as at least talking about compressed biogas specifically, today, the current situation is that compressed biogas is already competing with its fossil fuel equivalent. When we, after accounting for, proper project IRRs and all. So CBG is already there. Other biofuels need to get there and all. It is not, this is not happening due to subsidies. Having said that, one important point is that, see, government intervention is needed. There is a difference between fiscal benefits and government seriousness. If the world does not, if global leaders and top countries, they do not care about climate, then, it will take a back seat and all. Right? So right policies are needed, not necessarily fiscal incentives and all. So CBG, it is happening, because it makes economic sense, and the right policies, the right push came into place and all. And I think the sector has gone beyond that. Now it has become a very serious thing where all the who's who are in this sector today. We hope the same happens for other biofuels as well.
Sure. Okay. Thank you so much. I think sincerely appreciate all the inputs you've given, and we want to do a lot more sessions like this in the future. And we will take your inputs on how we can improve this also, right? And before we end, to all the other participants and also people who have been through the sessions, we'll be happy to give you an experience of how Venwiz as a platform functions. So please reach out to any of the team members at Venwiz, and we will set this up for you. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Yeah.